Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Marcelo, and I'm leading the technology and architecture portfolio at Nokia. So great to have you with us today. We have a very exciting and important topic where I have a group of selected experts to talk about. We're going to cover what it takes to secure critical networks where every millisecond matters. We will hear insights from us on the threat landscape, on the challenges, on the approaches network providers are using to protect mission-critical environments. As we go, feel free to send questions using the QA button on the bottom of the screen, but we address the questions towards the end. So for now, we're going to do a short introduction from the participants, and then after that, Maxine will kick off the presentations. So welcome, Mathan. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Marcelo. Thank you for hosting me here. My name is Mathan Kasilingam. I'm the current operating Chief Technology Security Officer and the Data Privacy Officer for a telco based here in India called Vodafone Idea. I've been a career expert for the past 2.5 decades, spending my entire career in cybersecurity, and here I am to share some of my experience with the participants over here. Thanks for hosting me here too. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Mauricio, welcome.
Thank you, Marcelo. Nice to be here. My name is Mauricio Sanchez. I'm in charge of engineering and architecture for mobile services here in Colombia. And it will be nice to share my experience in terms of developing telco network in Colombia here.
Thank you, Mauricio. Maxine, welcome.
Thank you very much, Marcelo, and thank you everybody for joining. My name is Maxine Holt. I lead the enterprise and channel research at analyst firm Omdia. So I'm going to get into my session now, which of course is very much focused on the title of today's webinar about securing networks where every millisecond matters. This is me. I've already introduced myself, but please do feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn via the QR code on the right. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'll start by defining resilience and noting that it really isn't one thing. It means different things depending upon your perspective. I'll then drill into telco service networks. They aren't quite the same as corporate or enterprise networks. They require this telco grade resilience. And then I'll wrap up by talking about the telco native precision and the care that is needed for these networks. So moving into defining resilience, how it can mean different things depending upon your point of view. So resilience is absolutely vital. Omdia has defined digital resilience, as you can see on the slide here. It's the organization's ability to continuously operate and quickly leverage digital opportunities. Why do we need digital resilience? Well, we need it so that our employees, all of us as employees, can continue to work productively, that our partners can interact smoothly and certainly in a timely fashion as well, and that our customers have a really good experience with us, keeps them engaged, and of course keeps them coming back for more. Now, there are multiple components of resilience. A constant one of these is cyber resilience, defined by Omdia as ensuring that the organisation continuously operates despite the security challenges that we know are there all the time. We can all attest to the fact that cyber security or maintaining cyber security is quite difficult, to say the least. And this resilience means that organisations can continue to operate despite the security challenges. Because if we can't provide our organisations with that cyber resilience, then they can't serve customers well. And that matters to everybody, whether their customers are B2B or indeed B2C. So resilience has got different impacts, and you need to think about resilience in terms of where the failures might be. So I'm going to build a stack of resilience on the slide here, and we'll start with consumers. We're all consumers in some way, shape or form, and we have devices. Perhaps that's a smartphone, perhaps it's a laptop. And as consumers, we use these devices to access services from the various organisations that we engage with. Perhaps our banking provider, perhaps it's a gaming company, it might be our local authority provider, it might even be national government. So we we work with those organizations as consumers to dig into those networks. And then, of course, our own corporate networks are also used by employees and partners to deliver products and services. And then the base layer, the foundation layer, is this telco service network upon which these corporate networks sit, upon which consumers sit as well. So if a consumer device fails, it's really annoying if you're the consumer with a failed smartphone or a failed laptop, but it certainly doesn't have any kind of huge economic impact. If a corporate or enterprise network fails, then the impact is certainly amplified. It might only be part of the network, but the organisation is no longer resilient. It might not be able to service its employees, its partners, its customers, and the impact is felt, and it's maybe even newsworthy. We have seen things like this appear in the news, and this is why digital resilience is so important to organisations. Then we must consider what might happen if the telco service network fails. The impact is intensified further from what might happen if a banking provider couldn't provide services, which of course itself we know is a newsworthy incident and can have a significant economic impact. So even if only part of the telco service network is unavailable, the impact can absolutely be huge. The telco is unable to service its customers and much of the critical national infrastructure that it provides. It won't be compliant with the many detailed regulations that it has to adhere to. And, this lack of resilience will undoubtedly be newsworthy. And the telco service network underpins so much, it simply must be resilient. There is no choice. And because of this, telcos recognise the need for ever more resilience and have listed some priorities for this year. So Omdia, we do an annual IT enterprise survey. For the 2026 survey, we spoke to or contacted 500 decision makers from telcos and found that their top priorities for this year start with improving network security. That's for 60% of those survey respondents, because of the need to be resilient and constantly available to support all of the layers of resilience that I spoke about a moment ago, plus the critical national infrastructure. Next is further addressing security and risk management for half. Security, we all know, it's a constantly moving feast, as is risk really, and we must be constantly assessing here. And then well over a quarter, are focusing as well on service assurance, assuring their business and consumer customers via improved tech and capabilities that their networks are reliable, they are resilient. And so telcos are very much focused on driving ever more resilience for their customers this year. So, given the criticality of resilience for telco service networks, the focus that telcos are placing on this resilience, what does this mean in terms of telco grade resilience? Well, this explains why telco grade networks require another level when it comes to resilience and security, and performance and stability have roles in service network resilience. So this is Omdia's definition of that resilience, ensuring that the network and supporting IT systems are continuously available at the expected level of performance. And to be resilient, these networks must not only be continuously available, but also highly performant. Every millisecond matters. And then as with corporate and enterprise networks, cyber resilience, of course, is a core component of service network resilience. And at Omdia, we define this as ensuring continuous network operation despite security challenges. And this requires telco native security controls under strict constraints so that our business customers can operate without interruption or service degradation. Those corporate and enterprise networks that I talked about a short while ago. that our service level agreements are met or indeed even surpassed, that our consumers have a satisfactory experience, and we're minimising churn for the telco service network. And if digital resilience is impacted for an organisation, it can't operate. We've talked about that. But if the telco service network itself is disrupted, many organisations and consumers can't operate. And for me, that makes telco network resilience a different level of criticality. So let's talk about the corporate network now, and whether it's the telco's corporate network or that of any organisation. It is designed to support employees, you and me, and the wider ecosystem that need to interact regularly, such as customers, partners and suppliers. But the telco service network, of course, is a lot more than this. It serves corporate customers, consumer customers, as per the resilience layers that I spoke about a short while ago. And the security applied to the telco's corporate network doesn't map directly to the telco service network for a number of reasons. And these reasons include that the corporate network is pretty much transactional, session-oriented traffic, can be a little bit tolerant to latency, of course. Failures can be acceptable if they're recoverable. Performance impact is generally pretty localized, and security tools can sit in line or indeed on hosts. But for the telco service network, you need continuous real-time signaling and data, that millisecond level latency and jitter. Failures, of course, they have an immediate impact on customers. Inline inspection, intrusive agents, they're not viable. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. And, life cycle, tightly governed, certified, and any overhead really does become a service affecting event. And so telco network security really needs to be considered beyond that of the corporate network. So I mentioned, sorry, just excuse me 1 second. That's better. So I mentioned on the previous slide some of the differences between the demands on the corporate network compared to the telco service network. So to dig into some of the security aspects of these, because the networks are very different, the endpoints are also very different. So in a corporate network, endpoints typically, laptops, desktops, smartphones, and so on. And security tools can sit in line, they can sit on hosts. And organizations can use this endpoint security to support compliance. Maybe it's with GDPR or HIPAA or any of the other regulations that they may be subject to. But then when we think about the telco service network, endpoints are something quite different. They could be physical, virtual, cloud native network functions as shown on here. It could be the visitor location register and much more besides. These endpoints are so very different that endpoints cannot be considered in the same way from the corporate network as they are on the telco service network. And from a security perspective, these inline inspection, intrusive agents are just not viable because of the risk. I'd argue as well that telcos are also subject to perhaps even more stringent regulation than the likes of HIPAA and GDPR. Fines of tens of millions of euros are not unheard of, and regulators are actively imposing fines of this level to ensure that telcos are highly focused on ensuring that their networks are resilient and performant. Thinking back to that survey that I mentioned a few slides back, the 500 telco decision makers that we surveyed, we know that 60% of those are really, really driving to improve network security as part of their need for increased resilience. And that's not least to avoid hugely punitive fines for failures. So this means that service networks and the security that's deployed on those networks really needs to be handled with even more precision and more care than those enterprise networks. Enterprise grade security is very good for what we need it for, but it doesn't cover telco service networks. So if we think about corporate network security, endpoints can be fitted with an agent with kernel access for maximum visibility. But in telco service networks, that inline inspection, these intrusive agents are just not viable. And endpoints cannot be fitted with an agent with kernel access as the potential for network disruption is too great. It's too high a risk. So, of course, kernel access isn't the only issue, but with no kernel access, endpoint agents in the service network must live in the user space, not in the kernel space, which means that there isn't the same level of visibility as in the corporate network security space. And so you need compensating controls to improve security. So we can look next at the network sensors. They're used to gain visibility of the traffic going through the service network as the kind of first level, I suppose, of compensatory control for user space endpoint agents and of course the response to that. And now we've seen more AI as well, of course, because network sensors, brilliant as they are, they cannot catch 0 days attacks typically, and AI is absolutely being utilized as the next level of security capability for 0 days. And then this is all underpinned by compliance. So knowing that telco service networks are critical national infrastructure governed by even stricter standards and compliance demands than many corporate networks are, and those multi-million euro fines that nobody really wants to receive. So I'm going to wrap up before I hand over to Marcelo, but I think I just want to reinforce the point here that handling these telco service networks with telco native precision and care, you really need to match these jigsaw pieces to the network. You know, traditional endpoint security tech for enterprises, for those corporate networks, does a great job where it's meant to. But when it comes to telco service networks, there really needs to be an additional approach to address all of those different endpoints that I talked about and maintain that resilience. This precision, this care is really vital to manage these networks, to maintain that security and to be resilient. Okay. That's it from me, thank you. I'm now going to hand over to Marcelo. Marcelo, over to you.
Thank you, Maxine. You are absolutely right. I think the telco landscape is changing under security, and we need special controls to address that criticality, right? So what I'm going to talk about is a little bit how we secure the telecom networks from a core networks point of view. So what we can do, what we're doing in Nokia to drive that change. Right. So telco networks have been secured. I have been building products and networks for the last 25 years or so, and we always have security in mind. However, on the past years, we see the landscape changing drastically. So there's a lot of new things coming. So that's why we publish our Nokia Threat Intelligence Report to the end of last year, which covers what we see happening across the globe in multiple domains. I give you a few highlights on the report. So we see nation-state actors threatening the mission-critical networks. One example has been the South Typhoon happening in North America, right? We see some of those trying to validate the network resilience, some as well with bad intention, but there's more people trying to break the mission network communications. So we see as the transformation, as the 5G deployment happens, we see a movement towards the cloud native architecture, which gives us a lot of advantage in terms of operational aspects for cloud native, but as well open the door to different set of security risks that we see. So we see the government and regulations be aware now that telco is a mission critical network. The service need to provide and need to be secured, improving the regulation and the directives across in all the regions. We see with the growth for generative AI, we see that is increasing faster. So attackers are using AI to create a new set of attacks, new set of vectors. So we need to defend with AI as well. So the sophistication is increasing, so we have to double down on that one to improve our defense system as well. And then last one, quantum computer, everyone knows about cryptography, that a quantum computer will come, we're able to break what cryptography we have today. So we have to work it out on the network to protect that, even though an approach that harvests now decrypt later in a way that we can protect the products coming. Seems like futuristic, but we have to start the protection now, right? And the other highlight is that malware is still there, is increasing number of malware. 55% report that the malware has been seen in the network, corporate IT. So 59% is still on the human factor. You have phishing and other stuff that create the open doors to the bad actors. And one big example is like the South Typhoon, who impact 80 countries. They try to stretch on the critical network, right? So I think this gives us the overview. So all this to make sure that we have to double down in moving the security further as the landscape is changing. So let's take a look on that from the core networks. Next slide, Anna. So if we transform that, what's happening and what we've been doing in the core network, so we have separate this into 3 layers. So initially, you have been focused on how we make sure that we operate and secure the network with access control, EDRs, monitoring response, all the things as well there. However, we need to up the stack. So we need to, from the vendor's point of view, we need to make sure that we continue increasing our capability to design products, design with security building, so that we can secure the development, the deployment, and the supply chain, right? I mean, threat analysis on the products, how we change the architecture for the products to make more secure, how we ensure secure coding. We use a bunch of open source as well, how we secure the supply chain, and we make sure that any software that we use outside is clean, is free, and has the vulnerability management part of that. And then on top, we see that we continue to see the 3GPP standards, GSMA, ETSI, but it is not enough. We see the regulation, especially the local regulations, so the ETSR in India, the ANSI in France, the BSI in Germany, the NIST in USA, focus on figure out what can I do, what I need in terms of requirements to make sure that those mission critical networks are really secure. So we have to put all this together in order to build a set of products to support that, and as well how we improve Nokia's capability into the products, how to create those security elements in architecture inside our products. So on the next slide, I'm going to show 2 things that we're doing in Nokia that based on all the landscape have been doing the past years. So if you think about core networks, we have a mission to continue to improve our hardening our core. So that we get feedback from what's happening across the world. We improve our practice on design for security. We have a very rigorous process to make sure that we develop products with security in mind. We have a specific lab where we try penetration tests, different sets of attacks. So we learn as well how the bad actors behave and try to be on top of the game on that one. And then we have all the threat intel that put on the list. In order to do all this situation, so we have built 2 kind of things. One, we have built what we call Nokia Security Factory. So how is that? We find a way to deliver fixes, remediation, patches, whatever called, faster, because we have a lot of open source. We have a lot of the inflow of vulnerabilities that we came to us to analyze is huge. The same thing from our customers or the operators. So a lot of vulnerabilities being identified, not necessarily mean they are exploitable, but we have to analyze all this set of data, make sure that we have corrections for the critical ones, for the high ones, and make sure that we deliver that timely. So we make sure the network is able to keep up with the speed of vulnerability, right? So we want to avoid any vulnerability that can be exploited. So that's why we say, in fact, we will deliver software on a frequency cadence, update everywhere, so with all the vulnerabilities, so we can tag that. On the other side, as Maxine explained in the beginning, so telco require different solutions. So the traditional IT solutions will not fit. So here we build our NetGuard portfolio, which is focused on telco network protection. We have specified identity management, privileged access management, network function security. We have certificate life management specified for telco. And then we have as well EDR that detects, monitor the network more closely to make sure that all these solutions around the telco are telco grade, meaning that no matter what happens, the service will be still there, providing voice, message, and data service on the network, right? And we have now over 500 mission critical projects deployed globally. So these are 2 things that we're working on. On the next slide, I will talk a little bit about, the topic of the years has been about AI, right? How we can have AI-driven telecom security operators, and what are we doing into our products, right? We have our NetGuard XDR, which contains embedded AI capabilities. So we collect, and the network provide a lot of data. So with this huge amount of data, it's humanly impossible to parse everything, right? So we need help AI to identify, for example, user behaviors. User behavior is very important. So we know, for example, on the core network that if an expert on the packet core, for example, if the network detects that this guy is playing around on the IMS domain, we know that something is wrong, because usually we have experts for the domain why the packet core guy will be dealing with IMS topics. So we can flag that user behavior to further action. We deploy a lot of traffic sensors. We deploy the agents. We identify, try to monitor, model how the network function is behaving in order to detect something different, and we flag those anomalies, right? And then we have certain capabilities to address threat hunting. We can go deeper and try to figure out if there's anything happening that's really under the hood and not seeing, but you can go to the steps to find out what are the threat hunters. So all of this bring that you use AI to help you analyze all the data so that you really reach a kind of real-time security observability, right? And here in the middle, some examples about what we do, what I can say. And then we have solutions that are more proactive, they're real-time, they're embedded, and they're predictive. So we're going to double down in one of them, which is very important. I think Maxine touched before, is about 0 day. 0 day is hard and it's very scary. So here we have been working with Bell Labs. Next slide. We work with Bell Labs to identify some algorithms, how we can do that. So we know 0 day, so we have a bunch of alerts. We need to be fast. So there's a lot of noise on the SOCs. So how we try to navigate this noise situation, all the alerts, all the information, to identify exactly what's really critical, right? So in order to do that, we work with Bell Labs. We have a patent AI detection engine that will work on the packet level, will detect it on the real time. So there is no overlap. We have high fidelity clusters, and we have reached in our numbers and deployments already 98% of accuracy, and very low false positives. So this gives us the ability to detect this vulnerability faster and act faster. And we embed all this technology from Bell Labs into our NetGuard EDR product. So we can have protocol-aware analysis, we can do precise triage of the threats, and then you can detect those new vulnerabilities, new threats faster and act faster, so we make sure that you react faster. Because all the effort we try to protect and to defend as much as we can, there's always something new. We need to find a way to react faster as well. So time to reaction is really important as well. And I think that's the kind of a high level I think we're doing in Nokia, which is important. So make sure that we understand what's going on. We make sure that we improve our process and product development, cover all the areas, and then we figured out innovative solution to drive that with AI and post-quantum cryptography to drive the security of the network better. So we have to double down that, step up the game, and drive the security to the network. So we make sure the networks stay alive and everyone is protected. Thank you. Now back to you, Maxine.
Super, thank you, Marcelo. Really appreciate that. It was, very insightful. Thank you very much. Right, so everybody on this webinar, given what you've heard from myself and from Marcelo, we'd now like to ask your opinion on a poll question. So you shall see this on your screen very shortly if you don't already. And this is the poll question. So what makes early threat detection hardest in your core today? So you can select one of these choices. So is it limited or inconsistent visibility across cloud native network functions, virtual network functions? Is it difficulty correlating signals from both network traffic and network functions? Are there latency constraints that are preventing that deeper inspection? Is it a lack of telco-specific analytics for zero-day behaviours? Marcelo talked about that a bit as well. And then also, could it be too many low-quality alerts or indeed false positives, which are the bane of security? So be really interested in your responses here. Please do select one of these. I'm really interested to see the results, and I know everybody else who is presenting on this session today are interested to get these results. So please do give me your feedback, and everybody else, of course, on this, your feedback. You know, I've got my own views on what might come back, but please do share your thoughts. Is it limited or inconsistent visibility? Is it difficulty correlating signals from both network traffic and network functions? Is it latency constraints that are preventing that deeper inspection? Is it lack of telco specific analytics for 0 days, or is it too many low quality alerts or false positives? So please do select one of these, and I shall tell you what comes top in a moment. If you can all just please keep choosing just one of those options. It is a choice of only one. And then we've got quite a decent spread actually across the results. So excuse me while I peer closely at the screen here. So the latency, thank you to the person who's made that screen bigger. I really appreciate that. So the lowest one, so the least difficult out of all of those at the minute remains the latency constraints preventing deeper inspection. So that's very interesting at the minute. As you're all, I know there are still people responding to this survey, which we're very grateful for. Thank you. And then at the minute, kind of coming joint second. Firstly, the too many low quality alerts or false positives, and then also this joint second from the bottom, I meant to say, or limited or inconsistent visibility there as well. And then I think we have next the difficulty correlating signals from both network traffic and network functions, and then top, and by a considerable margin, I would say, kind of with over 30% of the responses is the lack of telco specific analytics for 0 day behaviors. Very interesting to see that result. Thank you everyone who has responded to that poll question. Really interesting to see those results. So you know, I'm going to ask our panelists today what your thoughts are on those responses. You know, I'm going to bring in Mathan and Mauricio to discuss these results. So Mauricio, if that's okay, I'm going to start with you. What resonates most with your experience in securing, you know, the core in 26, and what would you add from your perspective?
Thank you, Maxine. Look, this kind of answers regarding analytics correlations resonates mostly to me because they are main focus in any implementation of any telco network. When you don't have this kind of analytics, this kind of correlation, this kind of endpoint visibility, it will be a mess. And I just want to add regarding these results that we are in a point where you have to understand how critical is now a telco network and how complex it's going on now, because you are going from a former telco approach where the telco functions are very common and so on, and where about the bare metal technology, and now you have a totally different environment, virtualized environment based on Kubernetes, based on hypervisors, overnight infrastructure, and these add lots of complexity that our people is seeing now, because they are talking about visibility, they are talking about correlation. this is part of this complexity, this added complexity that introduces when you have this telco environment about IT platform. So I think we will develop this mostly during the panel, but I want to add that it is critical to understand the new complexity of the new telco networks with these virtualized environments.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think the complexity is a real challenge, isn't it? It does make it even harder. Mathan, what are your thoughts, please, on that?
I think firstly, I'll resonate with the audience. I too was, while the response came as lack of telecom specific analytics for 0-day behaviors, here I would want to pause and say that take away the 0-day, keep aside the 0-day for a minute. The telco specific analytics has always been a hard game. As a practitioner of securing one of the largest GSPs here in the country, while applying the similar view of looking at telco network, which earlier remained as isolated, presumably isolated because of black box deployment that used to happen in the 2G, 3G era, with the advent of virtual VNF and cloud native functions and with 4G and 5G launches that came in, the practitioners started looking at ITification of telco network. We looked at IT getting inroads into the telco network, and the conventional monitoring technologies, the detect and prevent technologies that were deployed are good and adequate enough to give us the view, right? And historically, for past as many years, we have continued to integrate with the conventional monitoring tools and conventional security tools, possibly that would have gone inside these telco equipments today, the 4Gs and the 5Gs that are getting rolled out. But increasingly, what we noticed is we were able to see conventional IT security events that we notice in the same manner as we leveraged and deployed versus what typically happens in the telco grade as TSPs, the kind of attacks that come in now, were actually going under the carpet or in unnoticed manner, right? So the lack of telecom specific analytics, because there were weaker signals coming in the way from the source in itself, because the source in itself didn't manage to produce such kind of events back to us to produce those analytical events. So that I didn't get surprised with what audience told, but then the poll question itself could have been by limiting or eliminating the zero-day behavior itself. So as a practitioner, what we are trying to do now over here in my infra is we are distinctly treating telco networks as standalone separate, while there is still an ITification that has happened. And the common infra layer, we look them at as IT. But then for telco specific events, there are different signaling techs, as what we heard from Marcelo. Different signaling techs are being leveraged. Thereby, we are adequately able to find threats as they are happening in telco equipments, report in a timely manner into central monitoring systems, and build what we colloquially called as playbooks, which are logical analytics around on top of the events that are coming our way. We are applying that through a different lens as what it was from a different lens, from a completely different perspective as it was applied in the conventional IT network of ours. So that is something that echoed very well, and I thought I should share that view. Maxine.
Cool. That's brilliant. Thank you, Mathan. Everybody who's joined this webinar, just a reminder that you can ask questions via the Q&A function, so please do so. Thank you to those of you who have sent questions through already. We apologise for some of the technical difficulties at the beginning. We will be running over the top of the hour to answer as many of your questions as possible. Even if you can't stay with us, we are recording this, so you'll be able to jump in and get that afterwards as well. So please do continue to ask your questions as well. Okay, Mauricio, if it's okay, I want to come back to you now as well. So, when you're deep into telco core operations, what's one thing that you realise you've perhaps underestimated, and what's the biggest misconception that new team members tend to bring? Can you help us with that a bit, please?
Okay, Maxine. I think one of the common underestimated things in when you are implementing new networks is that you try to assume that they are mostly the same than before. I mean that you are handling the same kind of network, the same kind of typical network that you have in the past. I mean, you try to figure out how to implement the security for signaling routers, for the packet core, doing some firewall detection, and most of these things are pretty fine for a common traditional telco environment. But when you are going through the new implementation, the new complex networks that are based on servers, on IT infrastructure, you have to have a different approach. Yeah, and perhaps myself even were not prepared to do that, to figure out how to handle that. So we have to know that this is a new kind of network where both of these worlds, IT world and telco world, are joined together, and it has an extra layers, extra visibility issues, lots of vendors, lots of technologies, lots of generation that should run without losing a millisecond of traffic. And you have to face that is different. And this implies a change of your mindset in terms of how you go in terms of tools, in terms of skills, in terms of people. Yeah. And this implies, for instance, this approach of EDRs, XDRs, based on securities, and lots of things that are not pretty common in the previous one. Yeah, and you have to go now for this new of approach. And I think the misconception of people like me that I'm operating networks since 20 years ago is that it is mostly the same. And this is and the other misconception is, okay, we can adapt the processes of IT directly into the telco core. Is another mistake, because as you mentioned, it's the EDRs, the approach of XDRs and so on are really specific for telco cloud. Yeah, you have to be aware that you cannot impact performance, you cannot impact latency, you cannot impact the availability of a network that is running with millions of users, hundreds of petabytes monthly, millions of voice calls, and the network should be running without impact, because you are implementing a certain security platform. Yeah, it should be as transparent, and then we have to choose the specific tools, and then the specific skills, and then the specific process to go in this new critical world of networks that are more complex than before. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that makes really good sense. Thank you. Mathan, hopefully you can hear me now. So, you've got obviously lots of hands-on experience securing the telco core. AI, I mean, we can't go through almost an hour without mentioning AI anywhere. But is AI helping you now? Do you anticipate it will help you in the future? What's your view on the role of AI in securing the telco core?
AI is doing its dual-edged sword that it is playing the role today. So AI is used by the perpetrators as well. So we see as TSP increased quantum of attacks that get originated due to AI. A couple of years back versus to what we see today in reality is to the tune of 8 to 10 times attacks have increased, because with AI tools in the hands of perpetrator, they are able to attack us more so frequently with attack volume. So that's the first and foremost thing that I would want to state by. But combating such increased volume of attack practically was impossible for us with the limited set of resources, both by people and the volume of events that we would be able to see. So we realized this a couple of years back, and we started building upon ability and as well leveraging AI as a tech tool to counter or respond back to these attacks that are originating. So on the IT leg of it, while this is a honest reality, as we speak today, we have evolved to the extent of comprehensively getting towards what the world today wants to achieve as closer to autonomous in the SOC. We are about 60-70% towards achieving a large scale autonomous, wherein agentic AIs are put in place, where majority of the action, to the tune of 70% of actions, are auto-corrected and taken through various agents that we have introduced as AIs leveraged as agent and colloquially called as agentic AIs. It has taken about 7-8 months for us to refine, tune such agents with the support of suggestive manner that our agents, our actual analysts, have worked towards to bring these agents to operate. So this is closer to a reality in the IT leg of it. In the telco, the moment I told that attack volumes have just magnified, the telco, the environment, the challenge is the sheer volume of telemetry. And to eliminate what possibly is a noise to what realistically that I would want to qualify into be a security event. And in the IT parlance, securing the IT parlance existed for multiple decades now, at least if not 3, at least 2.5 decades. Monitoring the IT, the exposure, experience, the analyst exposure to build playbooks, and then refine and tune agents to make work relatively easy for them have come in our way. We tried and applied the same monitoring mechanism on the telco, and we saw the telemetry is sheer unhandleable. So that is when we started looking at purpose-built technologies coming in the way, like the Cyber Dome that Nokia has, and the NEDR that Nokia has. Came in handy to try and reduce the noise level, had done the precursor job of qualifying what events of interest. Today, I look at it as events of interest, and then thereby track them into security incidents of interest for our agents to look at. So we are in the journey to look at possible automation leveraging AI coming in our way and reducing these noises or addressing the early level signals at the AI level. But that's a journey that we are in, and it is still a long shot call. These are evolving spaces for us to keep a watch on, and I wouldn't say we have reached there, but our journey has begun with that.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear about the progression there. Thank you very much, Mathan. Really appreciate that. This is brilliant. We're getting so many questions in. There is no way we'll get to all of them, but please do keep asking your questions because we will follow up offline afterwards. So please do keep asking your questions. I have one, Marcelo, I'm going to bring you back in now. Give Mathan and Mauricio a brief rest before we go back to them. So and I think the same question is suitable for all of you, but Marcelo, if you could start. So in your core, whether that's the physical, the virtualized, the cloud native, where does visibility tend to degrade, and what does effective early detection look like from your perspective? Where does it start to degrade?
I think, like Maurice and Mathan said on the beginning, right, that we started from the physical bare metal approach, where the kind of a black box, where we have only few interfaces exposed and less data. As we move to this disaggregated world of the cloud native, we have more attack options, more interfaces. So we need to monitor more because you can only measure what you see, right? So I think the key point is that, like discussed, the analytics for telco need to improve. So we have to have toolings like network-specific EDRs, have heuristics, have data collection, have the network functions sending data, streaming data for observability more, so we can really see what's going on. Today, we see a little bit of black box on the network functions, they're streaming data, but traditional data about PM, FM, But as we look into security, we need to know more. We need to know what's happening. We need to know the behavior of, for example, the container microservices. All of this come with a set of tools to manage there and do the analytics. That's how we can keep increasing the game on the security.
Mauricio, you're nodding. What's you agree with Marcelo?
Yeah, for sure. I'm totally agree. I mean, this kind of visibility tends to degrade with this kind of interactions between layers, between technologies, between vendors, between functions. So we have lots of interfaces now, and we are not talking also about the internal networking of perhaps a data center, the external networking with another points of our network deployment. So it is pretty complex, you know, now to handle all of this information. And when this new complexity, the visibility tends to degrade. So what you need is this kind of tools, like Marcelo mentioned it, that brings you a whole vision of the network, a whole and total vision from the network, not just for sure the network functions, the containerized function, but also how is going on the Kubernetes installation, how is going on the hypervisor, how is going on the infrastructure, how is going the networking, and this is the key to respond not just operatively to the day-by-day operation, but also to the security threats. If you have this kind of visibility end-to-end and with comprehensive tools based perhaps in AI, you will have this whole vision. And then you will have this kind of early detection, because otherwise you will not even understand how it's going on your network. In the most simplest mistakes or errors or attacks, then you need to go for a critical visibility over the whole network.
Yeah. Mathan, anything to add from your perspective?
I think one additional component thought that I wanted to bring across table is most of us understand the cost of logs today, right? Cost of enabling logs itself is taxing on especially telco grade equipments. To turn on logging actually at the cost of performance impact is a massive thing for a TSP to come our way. So initial days when we looked at native logging capabilities, that's when the humongous telemetry started flowing in. Nobody had a clue of do I ignore some, do I activate only selective loggings? Those became a real bottleneck. So while we touched visibility, in the effort to acquire visibility, we can't sheerly turn on everything to log and then get them back over here at the cost of performance. So native text, I'm glad and happy that the OEMs like Nokia today are recognizing the fact that it is required to activate text, which will give us the sensing ability and thereby gain visibility without actually natively compromising the device's performance levels. And once we gain the visibility, security is all about gaining the visibility and thereby progressing to secure your element, right? So I think we are on the right track by few recognized efforts that are happening from an industry as a whole, I would say so.
Great, super, thank you. Right. I'm just going to ask, well, I've got a lot more questions to ask. I'm obviously not going to get through all of them. Just a reminder to everybody, thank you to those of you who've been able to stay. We will work through as many questions as possible over the next 10 minutes or so. But another question, Mauricio and Mathan, actually. So if you could have one thing, think of kind of utopia for whether it's capability, whether it's process, visibility, or alignment that would make securing your core meaningfully easier this year, what would it be? So Mauricio, what's your thoughts there?
Okay, I want to take two words.
Process, I don't know.
Process and visibility. Visibility is pretty important. It's really important to have the proper skills to have a comprehensive visibility of all the network. And for sure, the other one is process, but based more in a mindset change of everyone involved in the engineering, in the dimensioning, in the operation, and for sure in the security of the network. We have to change our mind trying to assume that we are in a different world than I don't know 10 years ago. We are in a new world with new kind of networks, with new critical needs from our users, from our customers. So for me, the important thing is that everyone, even me, is constantly in a change of mindset regarding how to challenge these new kind of networks that involves lots of technologies, lots of ledgers, lots of approaches in terms of orchestration, in terms of visibility, in terms of whatever it takes. These are my 2 words for this season.
Yeah. Okay. That's great 2 words, and you explained them so well. I think we're quite accepting of 2. Mathan, your thoughts, please.
I think one add-on beyond visibility goes without saying. That's the most core important element for us to begin even with. But one thing additionally that I would want to acquire is visibility is going to give me both noise and as well realistic events that are coming our way. There, the biggest element that I would land up focusing, which I plan to work upon, is you touched upon process, but I would say process is inadequate unless it is totally automated for me. I'm looking at Mauricio touched in a manner of orchestration, whether orchestration or not, an automated process for us to have. Like in IT world, we have the playbooks. Getting such playbooks in a comprehensive automated manner is something that I would look at to be worked upon. So automated process, not just a standalone process coming in my way, is one core focus that I would try and put together in 2026.
Super. Thank you. Right. Some of the questions, we've had some quite complex questions. I'm going to go with this one actually to start with. So the biggest vulnerabilities in 5G networks. So the question is, what are the biggest vulnerabilities in 5G networks and how can they be mitigated without compromising speed? Marcelo, I did think I saw you nod there. Would you be happy to take the first pass at that? And then Mauricio or Mathan have anything to add? That would be great. Thank you.
All right. So it's a very interesting question. And there is a few things I believe in the 5G network. I think we have the networks being deployed more dynamic. We have more exposed because we have different traffics running to the network. I think the first is to make sure that you have the right security posture on the network. It means securing the infrastructure, the applications, and have the visibility. Because if you baseline from the past, maybe it's not good enough for now. You have to make sure they have the right security posture, security process with, like Mathan said, automation to evolve that and upgrade the software, address the vulnerability with mitigation, remediation, whatever, able to keep up to speed what's going on. Because the reason is that if we see the information that a new vulnerability is discovered in the industry, in the community. So the time this vulnerability to become exploitable is drastically decreasing. From before it was like 2-3 months to get some vulnerability to be exploited. Now, in 30 days, you get someone able to exploit that. So you need to keep pace with your process and upgrade the software able to keep that tight. I think this is one of the aspects. There are more, but this is one that is growing very fast. How vulnerabilities can be exploited faster.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. Anybody want to add, Mathan? I hear you. I see you've taken yourself off mute.
I think one that we are trying and we have tried doing is acknowledging that with 5G, players have become microservices, right? So that's a core element coming in from the 5G. Once they have become microservices, we have tried to decouple the base infrastructure from the provider themselves. And base infrastructure has clean images, hardened images, to the extent of more so often when people end up deploying at start, it's like bare metal, not optimally tuned or optimally hardened, gets deployed through, right? So we have a tighter integration process where we call as first node getting deployed, the first node goes through a rigorous security assessment, wherein the bare metal is extremely hardened. The microservices on top of the bare metal, which are hardened, are well tested before they are rolled out into production. Thereby, in secure relevance, we call it as reducing the attack surface, right? So when a hardened image exists, the quantum of vulnerability that I would find as do I continually monitor them itself becomes limited. So start with clean in a manner that it is contained. I'm sure that even in a hardened image, we will continue to find more so vulnerabilities, but patch them more so appropriate, because these are microservice in nature. They are independent of the baseline packages. So that gives us the flexibility of patching more frequently, which never used to happen in the erstwhile telco network. The time to patch used to range anywhere between a year to 24 months, the cycle of the widest deployment people would have, that we are able to curtail now to closer to realistic numbers that in days, that we are able to do it similar to the parlance of how the IT world does. So those two are things we are able to, we should keep a watch to mitigate and make sure that we are not coming in way of security versus speed or so. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I just, Mauricio, you've come off mute.
No. I just want to add to this experts of security, Mathan and Marcelo, that we are facing this kind of troubles in a live network. Yeah, we have to secure this network when we are handling lots of traffic, and for sure, this kind of implementation should protect the user, should protect the user traffic, but should not impact the user traffic itself. I mean, we have to go for this specific approach in terms of as I mentioned before, of VDRs and so on, that will not violate the machine performance also. So it is important to notice that every security approach should be aware of what we are facing now, that is a telco network, not a common IT network. It's a telco network that needs to assure the availability and so on. It's just a thought that came to me.
Yeah, right. Super. Thank you. Thank you.
Focus more so around the control plane, then move into the user plane. So again, those are significantly easily possible because of the microservices layer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Super. Thank you. I'm very conscious of time when we're pretty much 10 minutes over the top of the hour. So I just want to say thank you very much, Mauricio, Mathan and Marcelo. I've really enjoyed the conversation, some fascinating insights. We've had so many more questions that we could have asked, but we will come back to them afterwards if that's okay. So our apologies for the difficulties at the beginning of this. It means we haven't been able to get to all of your questions, but we will follow up afterwards. So thank you all very much for joining us. We really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and we're wishing you a good rest of your day. Thank you all very much.